We can pray with me, please. Dear Lord, we love you. We thank you for this day. We thank you for the sunshine you've given us, and cool weather. Thank you for each club member that's here and each guest. Thank you for allowing us to have the service above self. Thank you for the food that you have provided for us. Bless those that have prepared it for us. For it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
So last week we met at the Peanut Festival. And I want to thank everybody that helped with that. Jason and Jay had the program for us, and it was very interesting. And Cynthia helped me with the food. It was just a good day. The weather was beautiful. I was so worried about being cold, but I should have been worried about sunshine. It was a great day. All right, family of Rotary, Terry Dothan.
Thank you, President Sheila. Yeah, it was fun out at the Peanut Festival, and I'm glad to see that Jason and James are still standing. That's a tough week to do work that I did many years, and I understand. Before we get to the birthdays and anniversaries, let me mention a couple of things, if I might. One thing, this is a Rotarian that visits us all, but he's not a member of our club. Mike Schmitz, who's a member of the Tuesday Club and comes a lot. But if you see Mike, please say thank you to him. From his passionate heart, he wanted to do something special for the veterans. So with a long group of Schmitz family members that served in the military, including Mike, he booked 18 food trucks, as some of y'all may know, and had them out in the parking lot at Ollie's to give free meals away to veterans and their families on Veterans Day. And I was with Mike on Saturday, and we talked about it. And he said, you know, we saw that we were going to run out of food. We sent people back to get more food. But at the end of the day, they fed over 5,000 veterans. And he took that. So, we plan on doing it again next year. And he said, you know, Terry, I hope to do it bigger and better, because we just never quite do enough for our veterans. And we don't say thank you enough. So if you know a veteran, please say thank you. Veterans here in the room, thank you from the bottom of my heart for your service. And please say something to Mike when you do it. Second thing, if I might mention, is bell ringer. Captain Jones is here today. The sheet is out there to sign up for bell ringer. I still will make good on what I said. We have 32 shifts to fill Tuesday through Friday. They're asking for 2 people for each shift. So if my math is correct, that's 64 people need to step up to the plate. And I'd like to be able to say that 100% of our club participated. So the offer I made before, I'll make it good. I signed up for a shift and reluctantly not signed up for others. But if you want to work a shift and you don't feel comfortable to work a shift, please let me know what you want to do, and we'll put it in your name, and I'll go work your shift for you. And I know after making that announcement, I had Seth Brooks come to me, and Seth said that he would be willing to do the same thing. And I know there's some of us younger Rotarians. I won't put myself in that group. Some of us younger Rotarians would work some extra shifts, so that at the end of the day, we can literally say that 100% of our Rotary Club participated. So please let me know, and let our president know. We'll make sure we do that. Okay, let's do 100%, y'all. Can we do it? You think we can? Maybe. Yes, sir. 10 a.m. in the morning, and I think it goes to 6 at night. Is that correct?
Yes, Rosemary.
Yes, 10 to 6. And it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I think it starts on the 14th and it ends on that Friday. Is that correct, Rosemary? Yeah. So it's Tuesday through that Friday. Okay. So start looking in your calendars and figure it out. All right, birthdays. Happy birthday to Donna Tomley on November the 9th. We had a pair on the 17th, Jackson Dennis Jr. and Lawrence Johnson. Roy Fabrini on November the 18th. I just mentioned Seth Brooks. He doesn't look any older, on the 21st. And our district governor, Bruce McNeil, on the 25th. Anniversaries. Terry Stansel and Amelia on November the 9th. Mike Conaway and Patricia on the 16th of November, and Mike Goodman and Peggy on November the 24th. I hope you all have a great week. Thank you.
Chris Chu, introduction of guests.
Good morning. I do want to say thank you for everybody that came out to the National Peanut Festival. I think it was a great success. I know we had some visiting emergency management directors from other states that came in and were here for the parade, and they thought it was great. It was the first time they were there. Glad to see Jason come in a little bit. I was afraid you were still at the gate out there waiting for it to open today. So, yeah, so too bad. But great. Everybody that volunteered out there, I was out there quite a bit, and it turned out very, very good. Only rained once. So I tried. So, all right. Want to welcome all our guests and visiting Rotarians today. When I call your name, if you would please stand and remain standing until we get everybody recognized. Katie Swanson, member of the club. Christy Morse, member of guest of Art Morse. Stephanie Walker, guest of Dale Goodwin. Dr. Michael Freed, guest of Donna Clemens, and visiting Rotarians, Davis and Lit Flowers from our Outlaw Club. Did I miss anybody?
Catherine Campasco. So well done. 2,093 points. 2,093. And the last four, 5479. 5479. All right, Rick.
Not time for it to be drawn. Probably got about 15 cards. Oh. Shuffle them again, shuffle.
No pressure. You might have had it before I had to reshuffle it.
Thank you, Karen. That's Mary.
Go home and check your calendars, sign up for the Salvation Army. If you don't know what you want to do today, you can email me or call me. And I have distributed all the DHR foster kids and the Salvation Army angel trees, except for maybe a few. Please check your emails. Thank you, Dan, for getting us those names, and I'm sure that you could give us a few more. If you didn't get assigned one and you definitely want to do one, let me know. I'm sure she'll be glad to assist us. And they're all due on December the 6th at that Rotary meeting. And don't forget, our senior citizen luncheon is going to be on December the 13th. And if you want to help, let me know. Thanks.
Thank you, Rosemary. All right, I have quite a few announcements. So I'm going to start with a good one. They're all good, but I'm going to start with this one. This is a thank you note that we received from Southeast Health from Amy Reynolds of the rehab department. Plus, I think she had everyone in the department sign, but it's for the care bags. And she says, Dothan Rotary Club, thank you for thinking of us during this challenging time in all of our lives. The care bags were so thoughtful and we enjoyed them. Thanks again. Several people signed, so they did appreciate it. And I had a friend of mine that works at Flowers send me a picture that day and say, thank you for the bags. So you made a difference and it is appreciated. So thanks. Okay, and then Alan Richards has been very busy and he has contacted Outside Methodist and they have agreed to start an Interact Club. So that is pretty cool. So we'll be getting that going in the next few weeks. Robbie and Borland Gilbert is the principal. She's gonna be the sponsor. And her father, Dr. Borland, was a Rotarian. So when Alan went and talked to her, she had a lot of fond memories of Rotary. And so that inspired her to want to do this. So we'll be working with them. We'll be getting that started. And I know there'll be lots of opportunities for you if you're interested in helping in that. So thank you, Alan. Love Dothan, this Saturday from 8 to 12. Mike and I sure would like to have some of you join us there. We'll meet at the First Christian Church on North Cherokee Avenue, a little bit before 8, get our assignments, go out. The weather's supposed to be nice. And you're done by 12, so you can go home, get something to eat, be ready for football. No problem. All right. Another item here that I have is that donuts. It was a wonderful success. We still need to finish up our collection. So if you ordered donuts and haven't paid, see Heather. We need to get that taken care of so that we can get all the funds turned in and accounted. Okay. The next thing we have to do is very exciting. We have 3 new members. So I'd like to ask Stacy and Paul and Connor and Cynthia and Mike and Davis to come forward. And Katie, I'm sorry. Sure, and Cynthia will introduce her new members.
Good afternoon. It's wonderful when we can induct 3 new members. So I'll start us off. I am delighted to introduce to you a longtime friend of mine. It's Stacy Bracken. Stacy and I go way back. We were in college together. I think I saw Dr. Young here at Wallace College back in the day. So we have just 2 years ago, right? Just 2 years ago. Many of you know Stacy. He was actually our manager here at WRC for our document destruction division for a couple of years. Before that, he was in sales for Assured Data Destruction. Unfortunately, about 3 months ago, I lost him to Tri-State Graphics, where he is now working in sales with Chris Sudar, who was a great person to be with. If I had to go to let him go, it's good that he went to work there. Stacy was born and raised in our community, and he graduated from that other school in Alabama. He is a diplomat with the Dothan Area Chamber of Commerce. And if you enjoy going to SEAC productions, you have probably seen him perform in some of the SEAC plays. He is chairman of the board of the Hartford Housing Authority. He's a member of Hartford Baptist Church, has a beautiful 21-year-old daughter named Amber. And when he's not working or doing things with his friends or maybe even acting, he enjoys playing golf. He likes to travel, and I've been with him when he likes to try new foods. So I think he'll fit in really well with Rotary because many of us like to do the same things. So please join me in welcoming Stacy Bracken.
Hey, everybody. I'd like to introduce a good friend and cousin, Connor Cheshire. Connor's going to be joining the Outlaw Club with us as our newest member. Connor grew up here in Dothan, went to Providence Christian, attended Auburn after that, and studied civil engineering. Been with Proximus Engineering for right at 8 years now, correct? As a structural engineer, focusing on civil mechanical projects. And we're happy to have him join the group. He's been coming to meetings with us for a few months now. Finally got him to sign on the dotted line, so he's stuck with us now. So appreciate y'all helping me welcome Connor tonight. Thank you.
It's an honor to introduce my friend and family member, Paul Swanson, and of course Katie. Paul grew up in Minnesota and moved to Dothan in 2013 after graduating from Wisconsin Green Bay College. He graduated with a bachelor's degree in finance, where he also played Division I college tennis. And then obtained his MBA from Troy State University in Dothan 2016. Was it Dothan or? Dothan. This is when he also met Katie. They have a child, Sammy, and are expecting one in December. No. After living out of states for a few years, they just moved back recently to Dothan with his job at Wells Fargo, and they're also attending Harvest Church. Paul's been with Wells Fargo for 9 years, and he's held various roles, different branches from teller to branch manager. In 2018, he joined the wealth business division of Wells Fargo, and he's currently working in private banking, working with fluent clients in Dothan and Wiregrass. Looking forward to work with him. Please welcome Paul and Kate.
Yes, we turn around and face me. Statement to read for you. You have Stacy, Paul, and Connor. You have been elected to membership in the club because your fellow members believe you to be a worthy representation of our community and the specialty that you possess, that you will be exemplifying the true spirit of Rotary where you work, where you live, and all the things that you do. So we're excited to have you here. I want to impress upon you that you've been admitted not only to the Dothan Club, but it's an international organization, and you'll be welcome worldwide, wherever you are, if you choose to attend a Rotary meeting. And it's an honor and a privilege to be a member of Rotary, but it carries with it some duties. You'll be expected to attend the club meetings regularly, to perform club service, to place your knowledge and talents at the disposal of the club in the task of carrying the principles of Rotary into the community. So on behalf of the entire membership of Dothan Rotary Club, I now formally admit you and welcome you. And I want to ask the sponsors, your sponsors, to give you your badge and certificate. Stacy's. Paul's. And you'll wear those badges each club meeting. Today, when you leave, if you'll put them in the box, you'll just drop them off on your way out. You pick them up on your way in next, well, not next Monday, but the following Monday. And we track, membership that way. And they help identify that you are a new member. We have a little ribbon that we'll put on that signifies you're a new member, and people will be able to greet you and get to know you a little bit better. Katie, I'm so glad you could be here. I'm excited that you came. And let's welcome these new members. Art has a very special guest that he's going to introduce. He has our background check.
Thank you so much. I want to introduce to you someone today that represents an organization that's very special, and it's very special. Parts of my wife and myself as well. My wife is a volunteer with this organization and does quite a bit of work with them. But it's something, I think, when you see the impact that it's having, and you see the issue that they're dealing with, it's something that I think a lot of people are not necessarily familiar with in Dothan. Some of you are, but I fear that many are not. So hopefully this will be enlightening, and it will perhaps inspire some of you to help out a little bit. I'm going to introduce Morgan Blankenship to you. She was born and raised in Headland, Alabama. She grew up in a rather idyllic fashion, raised on her grandmother's sweet tea, and hearing about the Lord's provision of rain for her grandfather's peanut crop. After graduating high school, she attended the University of South Alabama, where she studied political philosophy. While going to school, she began to lead a small group of college students to volunteer at a ministry in Pritchard, Alabama. This ministry was called the Light of the Village. Those weekly trips to Alabama Village led her to postpone law school and devote herself to full-time radical ministry in an incredibly dark and violent place. That experience proved to be the catapulting force to where the Lord has led her today. In 2013, Morgan adopted her daughter, Anna, and they returned to the Wiregrass area. She worked for the next 3 years for the U.S. Congress with emphasis on the federal grant process. In 2017, she and her daughter moved north to be part of a ministry center in the Philadelphia area, reawakening her motivation to take the church outside of the walls of the church. In 2018, Morgan took a job with the local youth organization, Wired Ministries, as their community ministry director. She helped to maintain year-round relationships with local nonprofits and to plan Wired events. Over the course of her time there, the Lord led her to begin to prepare her for what would be the ultimate calling upon her life, to serve women and girls in the Wiregrass area who have been or are at critical risk of being sexually exploited. Dating back to her time at Light of the Village, the Lord had planted within her heart a desire to advocate for and serve women and girls. Now she fights alongside the women of Dare to Hope to see women and girls walk in the fullness of freedom that Jesus won for them on the cross, and it is one of the greatest privileges of their life. Please welcome Morgan Blankenship.
So I'm going to go ahead and preface this with saying I am accustomed to teaching teen girls. So I'm probably going to walk around a lot and talk to y'all and expect y'all to talk back to me. That's okay. That's part of what we do. I get to work with teen girls every week and I love it. I love it. And so y'all got stiff competition for an interesting crowd because they're pretty fun. Right? As Mr. Art said, I work with a ministry called Dare to Hope. And anytime I'm giving a presentation, I always try to preface it. It's going to get really heavy, but I promise to leave you with hope at the end. Okay, I promise to leave you with hope. As Mr. Art said, we work with women and girls who have been or are at critical risk of sexual exploitation. That includes pornography, stripping, prostitution, and sex trafficking. Okay, and one of the things, the first questions that people ask me, wait, here? Dothan, Alabama, that happens here? And it does. The way that the ministry started actually was born out of that question. The founder, Gia Hughes, she was working in homeless ministry, and they attended a conference where Christine Kane, who runs Age 21, which is a global anti-trafficking organization, they heard this woman speaking about trafficking, and they came back home here to Dothan and said, wait a minute, that's happening here. And so out of a series of outreaches, they realized that, yes, in fact, it is happening here. Sexual exploitation, a good rule of thumb, is that anywhere drug trafficking is taking place, there's also human trafficking taking place. The harsh reality is that it is more profitable and more beneficial to a trafficker to sell a woman than it is to sell a drug, because you can sell a woman multiple times, you can only sell a drug once. Okay, I told y'all I was going to get heavy real fast. But that's the harsh reality, and it's happening here in our city. And so what is our response to it? Okay, the name of the ministry is Dare to Hope. The reason for that is a lot of the time, the women that we work with have encountered incredibly traumatic circumstances that have taught them that hope is a very dangerous word. Because if you hope, unfortunately, it can lead to disappointment. And a lot of the women and girls we serve have had a lot of disappointment in their life. And so the Lord was so specific and so beautiful in the way that he gave us the name Dare to Hope. In Lamentations, chapter 3, verses 21 through 24, Jeremiah wrote, "And yet I still dare to hope when I remember this. The faithful love of the Lord endures forever. His mercies never cease. Great is his faithfulness." Okay. I was teaching a Bible study to a group of girls one day, and one of my teen girls, she was, we were talking about this. And we started reading the first 20 verses in that chapter. And if you've ever read those 20 verses at the beginning of chapter 3, it talks about homelessness, and it talks about grief, and it talks about affliction, and it talks about all of these different things. And my 15-year-old girl looked at me and she said, "Miss Morgan, I've been told of those things." And again, the Lord drives home this point that there are some circumstances in the lives of women and girls that they literally have to dare to believe that hope is real. And that is the whole reason that we as a ministry exist, because we know that no matter what someone's walked through, hope in the Lord is real. He is their healer, he is the restorer of their life, and he's the lifter of their head. And we believe that with everything that we are. And so no matter what we're doing, whether it's in the clubs or whether it is on street outreach, whatever it is, that's the message that we're taking to these girls, is that they are loved. No matter what they've been told, or no matter how they've been treated in the past, they are loved. And that's their true identity. Okay. Okay, so the big question is, does it happen here? Okay, but wait, what does it look like? Okay, so if I ask somebody, like, if you could think of a movie that taught you something about human trafficking, does anybody have a guess? Somebody say something? Taken? Anybody ever seen Taken? Okay, so almost every time when we go and we give talks about like what is human trafficking, they're like, "Oh yeah, like that movie Taken." And yes, that is an example of what human trafficking is. Anybody got a guess about how much of a percentage it is though? 2%. So the depiction of that movie, if you've never seen it, is an American girl is kidnapped, tied up, thrown in the back of the van, taken overseas and sold in a black market. That accounts for 2% of overall human trafficking. So that leads to the question of, well, what does 98% of it look like? Okay. And so the reality is that the narrative that's told about trafficking and prostitution isn't actually the reality. Okay. One of the biggest enemies to the true narrative of sexual exploitation is commercialization. Right? Our idea of what it is based on movies and TV keeps us from actually being able to see it day to day when we're walking through Walmart or when we're at church or when we're going checking into a motel. And so part of what we do is try to help people understand what it really is. I always tell people it's only Taken only represents 2% of trafficking, and no woman I've ever worked with has had an experience like Julia Roberts in Pretty Woman, right? Prostitution is depicted like it's this glamorous thing. But in reality, women who have been prostituted have the same kind of PTSD as soldiers who've experienced combat. We actually have the great benefit of having a PTSD nurse on one of our volunteers. She works at Fort Rucker. And so having someone who actually works alongside soldiers and who works alongside our women and knowing and understanding that the same kind of experience, the fallout, the trauma that they experience is so much of that of veterans and the heaviness of that. So that's a far, far cry from Pretty Woman, right? A very far cry from Pretty Woman. Okay, so then that leads us to so what does it look like? Trafficking can happen to anyone. Anyone can be a trafficker. Anyone can be a buyer. It's not about a certain type of person. It's not about any person can be susceptible to these things. But there are things that make people more vulnerable. Women and girls are naturally more vulnerable to trafficking. Okay, and then you add on other things like homelessness, addiction, past history of sexual abuse, past history of involvement in the foster care system, past history of juvenile involvement in the juvenile justice system. All of these things make women and girls more vulnerable to being trafficked. I always tell my girls the one uniting factor for a trafficker, it's not what the way they look, it's not what race they are, it's not even their gender, it's not any of those things. It's evil intent to find and exploit the vulnerability in their life. And so part of what we do, and you'll hear about this in just a minute, but part of what we do is we want to teach women and girls to walk from vulnerability to stability. Because if we can do that, we're removing the places where traffickers can exploit. Whatever that looks like, if it's learning to do budget, or if it's walking through healing of trauma, or if it's just understanding that there are people that can be trusted in the world. Whatever that looks like, we want to help walk through that, okay? All right. Again, a lot of the vulnerabilities come off of just basic unmet needs. There are not a ton of resources available for women and girls in our city. And so we're talking about basic things like food and housing. Food insecurity and housing are two huge things that when people don't have those things, those are very, very easy things to exploit. We've had instances as simple as a girl being hungry and that being a vulnerability that someone was willing to exploit in order to trade sex for simply something to eat. And so understanding the place of vulnerability that a girl or woman is in, that a trafficker could come up and exploit simply the fact that she's hungry. And so that's the thing about trafficking we want people to understand, is that there are women and girls in our city who are suffering and who are dealing with these things and who are walking through these things. And we as the public and we as people who love the Lord, our responsibility is to see them and to recognize that they exist and to be the hands and feet of the Lord for them. I always tell my like volunteers who are training, our job is not to save anyone. Our job is simply to reflect who the Lord is. And if we can focus on reflecting who He is, things like that will automatically grieve our heart. Okay? So in the midst of all of those heavy things, who are we and what do we do? All right, we walk by what's called the hope model. Someone asked me not long ago to describe, very simply what we do. And I said, we love Him, we love the Lord, and we love them. If that's all I could say, that would be enough. Because that's literally, we just love Him and we love them. Loving them is the overflow of our heart because we love Him. And that's all we want to teach our girls, and that's what we want to teach our women. Okay, but how do we do that? So our programming is actually broken down into 3 key aspects. First, prevent. Second, protect. Third, prepare. So the hope model is built upon these things. 1, He is their hope. Okay. Again, I don't save anybody. I can't save anybody, but He can. I can go and I can help and I can be obedient, but I can't restore to wholeness what the world has broken. But He can. He has the power to do that. And so that's what we do. We point every single moment. We want to point to who He is because He is their Savior. Secondly, we believe wholeheartedly in trust-based relationships. Like I said earlier, a lot of the women that we serve have been let down. They've been abused. They have been through a lot of things that have taught them that trusting someone is a very, very dangerous thing to do. And so in order to reestablish that, we build what's called trust-based relationships. How do we do that? We do what we say. So, for example, if we're out on outreach and I tell somebody I'm going to bring them a hygiene bag, you better believe I'm going to take them a hygiene bag. If I tell a girl, hey, I'm going to pick you up at 11 o'clock and we're going to go to this place and take care of this today, then it's my responsibility to be there at 11 o'clock and do exactly what I said that I was going to do, to be trustworthy, okay, to show up consistently. To not just be somebody who just shows up once a week, not once a week, but like once every 6 months, but to be someone that they get to know. Because when we first started out, the whole reason that we do Motel Outreach now is because Gia, she encountered girls at truck stops and bus stops where girls were being trafficked. They didn't care that she drove up in a van with a church on the side of it. It didn't matter. They didn't trust her, okay? But over the course of time, what she learned was the importance of consistently showing up, consistently being that person who was knocking on the door saying, hey, we got some food, you need prayer? How you doing today? How's your kids doing? Remembering people's names, showing up, but being consistent, being a consistent presence in the community. Secondly, a commitment to walk out life together. So the verse that always comes to mind with this is we rejoice when they rejoice and we weep when they weep. That means that there may be a great day, a day where we get to like champion her and like cheer her on and be excited. But there are also going to be days that we're willing to walk through that are hard. So we rejoice when they rejoice and we weep when they weep. We're there on the good days, the bad days, the ugly days, the beautiful days. And we commit to walking all of that out with them. And lastly, from vulnerability to stability, addressing those areas that need to be shored up, whether that's emotional, spiritual, whether that's a physical need, whatever that is, addressing vulnerability so we can move forward, so she can move forward. Okay. So for prevent, we believe that the best thing to do is to prevent this from ever even happening. If we can step in and intervene with teen girls, then we can prevent exploitation from even taking place. The way that we do that, we focus a lot on mentorship with teen girls. We partner with local juvenile justice systems. We partnered with we did before COVID, we did mentorship at Dothan Rotary Academy. We do summer programming with Dothan Housing Authority. So wherever there are teen girls and wherever they will let us go and tell them about these things and help teach them and love them and talk about identity with them, we're going to be there. And so we love teaching girls like who they are in the Lord and teaching them the signs and the manipulation and things that take place so that when something comes up, they can recognize and go, oh wait, Miss Morgan told me about this. And then be like, I need help, or hey, my friend is in trouble, she needs help. But being willing to go and to minister to teen girls. We also do education and awareness, so events like this, youth groups, churches, civic organizations, anyone really, because we want to help people understand what trafficking is, that it takes place in our city, and what we believe are the solutions to it. Okay. Secondly, we have Protect. Okay, so we are actually part of a network, a tri-state network. And so I use the word rescue. They call it rescue, but what we really provide is emergency transport. So we work in coordination with other agencies across the state, and across the tri-state area. So for example, we may have someone who needs help in the Panhandle, and so we'll help provide transportation for them from their emergency situation into long-term transitional housing or emergency housing, whatever that looks like. It's a car ride, time to talk, time to pray, time to just love on them. That really is what it boils down to, but helping provide a bridge from that emergency moment to a place of stability. Okay. We are also super excited because we are about to open our own house here. It'll be the first of its kind in our area, and we are elated. The Lord, I don't have enough time to tell you all about what the Lord has done, but let me tell you, He's beautiful. And He has provided in ways that have blown our minds. And so very, very soon, we dare to hope will have their own place here where women can find healing. And so we are pumped. To use one of my twin girl words, we're very, very excited. And so that's coming very soon. It'll be a transitional place for women to be able to come out of off of the street, out of bad situations where they've been sexually exploited, and be able to find stability. And then lastly, prepare. So this is a lot of different things, so many things I couldn't even put a pretty picture up there. So we do a lot of different things during the week to reach out to women in the community, to be able to just provide encouragement, to be able to provide a time of just coming together and eating. We do individualized casework, and so that step of stability at first may look like, hey, I don't have my ID, and I need to get my ID, and so can you help me do that? Yes, we can do that. And so it's helping them walk through what those steps of stability look like. And if it's a birth certificate, or if it's, hey, I really want to sign up for CNA classes, whatever, I need to fill out my FAFSA. I've learned a lot of things. I have to Google a lot of things, but it's great because we're just like, that's your step. Okay, we're going to learn how to, if I don't know how to do it, we'll either find somebody who does, or I will Google it until I do. And so we will walk through that. But a lot of time, I mean, it's very rare that we have girls come in that share the same need. You know, one day it may be FAFSA, the next day it may be an ID, the next day it may be a social security card, whatever that looks like, but we're willing to take those steps of stability with them. SOS classes, so that's going to be basic life skills classes. Basic life skills classes, whether it's budgeting, we taught a couponing class last week, like different kinds of things like basic life skills classes. We also do source of strength, which is our Bible studies. We believe very much so in a Bible study called Freedom Study. If y'all have ever done that, we use that curriculum a lot. We do another one called Keys to Freedom. We believe in walking through places of healing so that our girls can see the fullness of their identity and who they are in Christ. In order to do that, they have to walk through a lot of really hard places. But to see them on the other side and to have that moment of realization, like we did last week, where one of our teen girls sat there and she said, free. I'm free. And to see that, I promise you, there's nothing like it. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. We do Circle of Hope, which is where we bring women in off of the street. We invite them in. We do a time of encouragement, a time of devotion, and we have afterward, we have what's called the table. And so as y'all have modeled very well for us here today, we love to eat together, and we believe in the power of a meal, right? We believe in being able to sit down, eat together, talk, laugh, talk about what your favorite Christmas thing is, you know, all this beautiful, simple things that we take for granted sometimes, but being able to just sit down and have community around food. So we do that for our ladies. We also do Motel Outreach. And so once a week, they're actually probably there right now. We go to the local motels. It's a hot spot for trafficking. And so we go to local motels. We will minister to anyone the Lord puts before us, man, woman, child. Our programming is specifically for women and teen girls. But what we do on Motel Outreach is we take meals. We have wonderful volunteers who supply our meals. We take meals out, we offer prayer, and we just minister with consistency. Sometimes it takes years for a woman to come in. Sometimes she comes in after the second time we meet her. You know, it just depends. But being willing to put in the love and the attention and the time so that they know that there is hope. Okay. And then lastly, club outreach. And so we actually do ministry in the local strip clubs. We go in, we minister to the girls, we just love them. It's easier for me to tell you what we don't do, okay? At the clubs, when we were there one time, we walked in and they were like, you're never gonna believe what happened. We're like, what happened? You know? And they said, we were picketed yesterday. And we were like, really? And they got picketed, signs, obscenities yelled at them, recorded, things like that, in the name of the Lord, by the way. And so all of these things just hurled at them. And then, but the beauty of the Lord is that we came the very next night and they could see the contrast, because that is not reflecting the Lord well. But to come in and say, hey, you know, that's his heart for you, is that he loves you and he adores you. Because of that. And just being able to minister in that place, it was very sweet of the Lord. We go to the club to love those girls with a heart that is just bubbling and overflowing with love. That's what we do for club ministry. Okay. All right. So the power of hope. It's really interesting because I've been reading up on, there are actually tangible measurements for hope. And they're doing these new studies, like scientific studies, on the way you can measure hope. And what they found is that a life can be changed by the presence or the absence of hope. It matters. And what they describe is like Hope is not, oh, I hope it won't rain tomorrow, right? Hope is believing that your actions or the actions of people who are standing with you can actually change what tomorrow will look like. And I know for me, it's difficult to imagine my life without hope, right? I grew up in a very, on a farm in Southeast Alabama. It's really sweet thing, but it's hard for me to imagine what life is without hope. But the reality is that there are a lot of people like that. But the power of hope and the power of sharing hope and the power of speaking into a life and saying, hey, I will walk with you through your life. I will walk with you. I will love you. I will rejoice and weep with you. That gives hope. It gives hope to people who have none. And so if we're willing to step out and say, I want to help bring hope to people. If we're willing to commit ourselves to even doing that for one person. They do studies on mentorship that say that one person can change the course of a child's life. One person. Not 50 people, not 20. One person can change the course of a child's life. One stable adult, one loving, caring adult. And it's the same for our women. One person can change the course of a life if we're willing to believe in the power of hope and point them to Jesus. Okay, I want to leave y'all with one story, and then I'll open up for questions. This past week, I was walking someone through our office, and she was literally taking account. I don't know if you guys know this, but our, if you can't tell, our symbol is a butterfly. We have butterflies all throughout our office, everywhere in our office. And she was walking through and she was counting the butterflies. And I was showing her, and I showed her a verse, and we were talking. I told her exactly what I told you all about the first 20 verses and the beauty of the words dare to hope. And she looked really like it was just sinking in on her, dare to hope. And I told her about Jeremiah, about daring to hope, yet I still, even though all that stuff happened, yet I still dare to hope. Okay. And it was just settling on her spirit. It was so beautiful. And she said, I walked through a really, really hard time, like a really dark time. And she said, there was this day where I didn't want to talk to the Lord. Like, you was the last person I wanted to talk to that day. But I went out there on that deck anyway, and I sat down. She said that all I could get out was, Lord, is there anything good or beautiful left in the world? And she said, about that time, I was sitting there, and about the moment that those words came out of my mouth, a butterfly landed on my knee. And she knew she was seen, and she knew that he heard her. And so as she walked through that office, counting the butterflies, every one of them was a reminder that she's seen and that she is heard and that she is loved by the God who created the world, and that there is hope for tomorrow. Okay? I know that's super heavy. I know it is. And I promise you that it is heavy. I'm not going to downplay it. It is heavy. There are days that are really heavy. But there are also days where I see the most beautiful things I've ever seen. And so for me, it is a privilege to get to walk with women and with girls. And so if y'all have any questions, I have some prayer guides. I have some just little flyers that tell a little bit about what we do and a little bit of information about trafficking. But if y'all have any questions, you're free to ask, or you're free to come up to me afterward. There is hope. Yes,
What are the preventative measures for society? Those things that we talk about, I know what's going on. But, it's very difficult to involve yourself in an activity that you're not sure of.
Yes.
You know it's going on because you get hints of it or people tell you about it.
But you don't know how to engage with it.
Right.
Right.
How do you involve?
So first and foremost, being able to know what it really is. I think that there is incredible power in a correct narrative. That means that not thinking that it's just girls being kidnapped and taken overseas, but understanding the first step, I believe, is understanding that it actually does happen here, and that raises an awareness within you to be able to look for those things. Okay.
Look for what things?
So looking for examples of, number one, large age differences in romantic partners. Situations where that resemble domestic violence. If you're in a store and you know, you're walking past and you're saying, excuse me, or something, and the girl has to look to someone for permission to speak. Okay, that's another thing, like a very controlling atmosphere. Having to ask permission to, as a grown woman, having to ask permission to go to the bathroom. Situations where, you know, there's homelessness and someone's just trying to, like, you know, the choice. We've had women who have been in positions where it's be trafficked, be prostituted, or be sexually assaulted on the street. And so being aware of those things, being aware that those things happen, and advocating for those things in our community. You know, having places where women who are homeless can go. Having places where that operate with the understanding that trauma is real. And that the effects of trauma in a life, there's a lot of things that come off of that. Yes, sir.
Okay, you've identified things, examples that would be an indicator. Then what would we do? Go up and smack the guy?
Although I would want to, the best thing to do if you're in that situation, if you think that there's an emergency situation, don't call us, call the police. Don't you call 911. If there's a situation where, let's say that a girl came up to you and said, this is what's going on, I need help. There's also a trafficking hotline number. Okay. From there, what they would do is contact us. What we do on the street is that we can identify it. One of the hardest things is that 9 times out of 10, women are not going to identify as a victim. It's very similar to domestic violence. That happens to other people, but me, you know, it's my fault, or there's some, because that's what a trafficker does. It's the same thing that abusive husbands or abusive wives or whoever, abusive people try to manipulate the victim into believing it's their fault. And so it's very difficult for a victim to actually identify themselves as a victim. Emergency situations, call 911. There's a hotline number, and then, you know, we have people contact us and say, hey, would you mind talking with this girl, and, you know, things like that. Does that make sense? Don't punch him. Yes. So we are funded by personal donation. We always say the Lord. He just funds us. I mean, the Lord told you a long time ago, I know your needs before you need them, and I will supply them all. And so you know, we've had people, even recently, we've had people who've done fundraisers on our behalf, but the Lord has literally funded every aspect of this. And through personal donation, we have some church participation, church donation, and so that's how.
You have a budget to work from?
Yes, sir. We do. And so he has like literally supplied everything for this house. It's been really beautiful. It's been really, really beautiful. We were recently awarded a few grants from private foundations. And so to date, we have not accepted any government funding. And we don't have the intention to. I'm not saying we never ever would, but we don't have the intention to. So, yeah.
Bring raffle tickets?
Actually, I did not bring raffle tickets. You can get them online. So he's talking about someone's doing a fundraiser graciously on our behalf. If you've been to the Peanut Festival, you may have seen our booth. They're raffling off this really cool Jeep. I've been joking because everybody's like, hey, don't post pictures of my Jeep. You know, everybody's taking ownership of this Jeep. And so it's really funny. It's been really cool to see everybody like buying raffle tickets and be excited about it. And so you can purchase raffle tickets online, or Friday and Saturday, they will actually be selling raffle tickets outside of Eagle. And so they'll have the Jeep, and you can go, you know, sit in it and make sure it's comfortable. But they'll have the Jeep there, and they'll have raffle tickets. They're selling at Eagle out Friday and Saturday. You had a question?
Oh, no, it was the same.
Okay, raffle ticket.
Hair blowing.
It is a cool, it's a very cool Jeep.
It is.
It's really cool.
CJ5 has been completely restored.
It only has 110 miles on it since the engine was rebuilt. And it is in like factory new condition.
Yeah, it's pretty
It was
cool.
donated to the ministry.
It was donated, yeah, all of the proceeds go toward the house. So we're very thankful, and it is super cool. Anybody else?
If you're making individual contributions, to whom would you send it to?
So we have a website, www. I'll get to it. So, daretohope.net. You can actually, we have a donation button on there. There's also a place you can, I just broke it. There's also a place that you can buy raffle tickets on there. So the donation button for just general donations is on there as well. Okay. Anybody else? Thank y'all so much.
Thank you, Monica. That's very good. All right, don't forget Love Dothan coming up this Saturday from 8 to 12. You know, sign up on your way out, and if you haven't paid for your donuts, please see Heather. And we will not meet here next week. Thanksgiving, happy Thanksgiving to everybody. But the next week, Melissa Ray will be our speaker from the Wiregrass Museum. So thank you for our visitors. And let's stand and do our four-way test. Of what we think, say, or do.
Is it true? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it really benefit shifts? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Well, I didn't know I was.
Well,